Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
It appears Naya's father may have been a target in a neighborhood feud that may also be linked to a larger drug conspiracy.
Said we would get justice for 6-year-old Naya Courtney. The prayers of the community have been answered. I'm here to announce today that we've got our man.
The big story at 5, D.C.'s police chief announcing the arrest of a suspect in the killing of a 6-year-old girl.
Naya Courtney's murder made national headlines about 2 weeks ago, just one of many high-profile shootings that have put D.C. on the map for all the wrong reasons. And tonight, a man's in custody. Naya's father, a suspect in a separate case.
Fox 5's Stephanie Ramirez live tonight in Southeast with those details. Stephanie, we've seen Chief Conti in the past few weeks very passionate, but he's on a whole different level lately.
A whole different level, a lot discussed today. I got to tell you, the news conference today also discussed a slew of different issues. The mayor saying she wants to put more money now towards hiring more officers. She and the chief again pointing toward the courts, wanting to make sure that the COVID backlogs are addressed, and that also that repeat violent offenders are held accountable. But of course, the big news today is the arrest.
The prayers of the community have been answered. I'm here to announce today that we've got our man.
D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti said a Superior Court warrant allowed the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force this morning taking 22-year-old Mark Twan Hargraves of Waldorf, Maryland, into custody, charged with first-degree murder while armed. As the chief has hinted, the suspect does have an open criminal case in Prince George's County. The booking photo you saw is from there. It looks like Hargraves appealed his criminal carjacking case from last year. Going back to Naya, the July 16th shooting that took her life also injured 5 other people, including both of the 6-year-old's parents. Well, new today, Chief Conti also confirmed that her father is now also a suspect in a different case. He was one of 16 people confirmed named in a federal criminal conspiracy indictment. This has to do with D.C. Police's Violence Reduction Unit busting a drug trafficking network in certain sections of Southeast D.C. So we're talking at least 10 firearms recovered, PCP, crack cocaine, heroin, pills, and cash also seized. Conti said there is still one suspect wanted out there with this drug ring, and he spoke to that person directly before addressing their efforts.
We got your guns. We got your drugs. We've taken your cars. We've got your friends. Now we're coming for you. These behaviors attract violence. So we not only have to focus on individuals who are engaged in violent acts, but we have to look at the individuals that have close proximity to violence. Al Capone, as an example, he went to jail for tax evasion. He didn't go to jail for all of the carnage that he created in the community. And we are taking a different look, a more intelligence-led approach to focusing in on violent crime in community.
All right, so Stephanie, if Naya's father was arrested for this drug trafficking ring, is there a possibility that he was targeted the night that Naya was shot?
Jim, the chief said it is possible. That is something they are still investigating. What he also said with this drug trafficking ring is that they started work on this in early 2021, so earlier this year. As soon as the shooting happened back on July 16th, they did have arrests that following Monday, which I believe also included the arrest of Naya's father. I quickly talked to her grandmother today, who said she is glad to hear about this arrest. She wants everyone, hopes everyone involved is captured. She and her daughter were preparing for the funeral coming up for the 6-year-old. I can tell you the suspect, 22-year-old Hargraves, is expected to appear in court tomorrow. Jim,
Now to a
back
Fox
to you.
5 follow-up. Brand new details about the Maryland man accused of shooting and killing a 6-year-old girl in Southeast D.C. Evan Lambert joining us live tonight from the courthouse. He was in court today, Evan.
Mark-Twan Hargraves being held without bond. We have learned that he has worked with children at an elementary school in Northwest D.C. in the past. D.C. Public Schools confirming that to us today, that 22-year-old Mark-Twan Hargraves worked as an after-school counselor at Janney Elementary School in Tenleytown. He was a contractor there in 2016. Now he is accused of murdering 6-year-old Naya Courtney and injuring several others in the July 16th shooting on MLK Avenue Southeast. It appears Naya's father may have been a target in a neighborhood feud that may also be linked to a larger drug conspiracy. Court documents say Hargraves sent group texts the next day offering remorse, saying, quote, "God talked to ya, it's serious, it's crushing me inside, bruh. I cried last night, I'm hurt." Prosecutors allege he tried selling a rifle which fires the same caliber bullets as the ones used in the girl's killing. All this comes while a battle is ongoing between the Bowser administration and the D.C. Superior Court system.
The courts are not open. That is a fact. Barely open. So cases from last year, from 2020 that happened during COVID, of violent criminals that have not been disposed of. What do you think those individuals are? Anybody want to take a guess? They're in community.
That was Chief Robert Conti pointing the finger at the courts for a huge spike in gun crime and homicides.
Now, a lot of times when people think about taking losses in a game, the first thing that comes to mind is going to be money. But I'm going to tell you the story about a Washington, D.C. man that will go on to lose two things way more valuable than that. What up, though? It's Shay's Popalot. Salute the almighty mob. Now, the one thing I haven't said in a long time that I feel like needs to be said is this is education and not glorification. And with that being said, I want to say that I feel like it's a huge misconception that's associated with the game. When a lot of people jump into the game, a game that should only be used in desperation, might I add. But all too many times we have the people that are fooled by the fast cars, the girls, and the money. And anybody or any real hustler in the game would tell you that no matter how much you gain, sometimes it's just impossible to make up for those losses. And as I'm going through the motions, it's two stories that stick out in my mind that you guys might be familiar with. It's the story of Kevin Childs, who would unfortunately go on to lose his mom, as well as, I want to say, 27 years of his life to the game, as well as the story of Unique Mecca Audio, who would go on to lose a similar amount of time, as well as his brother to the game. And to me, it's crazy that you could call them lucky in any kind of way, but look how many people from that era didn't even make it out the game with their own lives. So with that, I want to tell you guys the story of 34-year-old Niko Griffin, who, according to authorities, would have an affiliation with Southeastern DC's MLK crew, who was deemed a drug trafficking network based in Southeast Washington that sold cocaine, crack cocaine, fentanyl, PCP, as well as other drugs, and how his alleged alliance to this group will cost him not only a child, but his freedom. Now, a federal investigation will reveal that the MLK crew members openly engaged in the sale of those drugs that we spoke about previously, and were said to have effectively taken over the area, as well as some of the neighborhood businesses. The indictment states that members of the crew would often go into these neighborhood businesses to facilitate these narcotic sales. But more importantly, the indictment states that the MLK crew's drug trafficking contributed to numerous incidents of drug-related violence in and around the 2900 block of Martin Luther King Avenue, including multiple assaults, shootings, robberies, and even murders. Most notably, the murder of 6-year-old Nia Courtney, the daughter of Niko Griffin. At his trial, Niko Griffin's defense attorney would say that he himself was a victim of DC's gun violence, being severely injured in the same drive-by that would wound his fiancée and take the life of his 6-year-old daughter on July 16, 2021. But in an article published by the Washington Post titled "Father Accused of Putting 6-year-old in Harm's Way Before She Was Killed," with a lot of questions being raised to exactly why the 6-year-old was on Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X Avenues in Southeast at 11 p.m. at night. Federal prosecutors would take it a step further, saying how Niko Griffin was part of the problem and partly responsible for his daughter's death, mainly blaming his involvement in the violent drug trade in Southeast Washington, where his daughter was killed. Now, not only did people question the situation surrounding the shooting, but the judge that would eventually sentence Niko Griffin, Judge Dabney L. Farich, would say, "I don't understand what a child was doing at that location at 11 p.m., going as far as placing the blame of his daughter's death right on his shoulders, saying that that's the choice he made to put his family in. Niko Griffin's defense attorney would suggest otherwise, saying that Niko Griffin had been unaware of recent violence on the street, the neighborhood him and his fiancée had grown up. The defense attorney would emphasize that there was no evidence that Griffin was personally involved in gang violence, describing him in the sentencing memorandum as a very low street worker who used crack to deal with untreated depression. In a letter to the court, Niko Griffin's cousin would write that his fiancée was now trying to move to a safer neighborhood, adding that Griffin had lost 2 of his brothers to gun violence and his mother to a heroin overdose, saying that his entire life had been filled with trauma. He would officially be sentenced to 55 months, which looked like it got dropped to 37 months. But when you add on the loss of his daughter, you really understand the statement that his entire life has been filled with trauma. Authorities would arrest a man by the name of Marquand Hargraves for the murder of 6-year-old Nia Courtney. But before he could even face charges of the crime, he would meet his fate about 2 years after his arrest, when he would be found unresponsive in his jail cell. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. Y'all get in the comment box. Y'all let people know, man. People are taking unimaginable losses in this game that people play. Tap in, let me know what stories I need to tell, what cities I need to go to, what I missed, what I got wrong. Get at me directly on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. And until the next time, salute the almighty mob.